didn't take long, approximately 30 seconds for the light to turn green. It was safe to go in. However, he still felt a little hesitant. With a deep breath, he opened the door and entered the lab. The distinct smell of the sanitization gas was still lingering around, slowly drifting out the vents. The room was the most disorganized it had ever been. Half the cupboards were still open. There were empty test tubes lying on the distant counters. Research papers were spilled across the floor, and almost all of the equipment was sprawled across different tables. These scientists are such animals, was the first thought that popped into his head. As he surveyed the scene in front of him, he kept thinking of how much time and effort it would take to clean the lab. He couldn't even figure out where to start from. No one told me it would be this bad, he thought to himself. This was only his third day on the job, and he had already started contemplating quitting on the spot. He looked down at the hazard suit he was wearing and started rubbing his hands over himself. He took another deep breath and decided to take it one step at a time. It was just cleaning and organizing the lab. He was being paid a decent amount of money to do it. He knew that he needed to suck it up and just do his job. Turning right, he went towards the first table and got to work. Slowly but surely, he made his way across the room, cleaning, sanitizing, organizing, and sorting the mess that was left behind. After finishing his work on the tables near the walls, he slowly started making his way through the center of the lab. It took him about 2 hours to finish everything up. It was then that he discovered a specimen of some kind lying in the middle of the table. He had no idea what it was, but it looked disgusting. He didn't even want to imagine what it was. Just looking at him made him belch. However, he didn't know if he should touch it or not. He knew that the lab worked on various hazardous and radioactive materials. He was also told not to touch any of the experiments. However, something this disgusting could hardly be what the scientists were working on. He didn't know what to do. If this was in fact part of the work that the researchers were working on, he would be in a lot of trouble for touching it. On the other hand, if it wasn't what they were working on, then he would be in a lot of trouble for not removing and cleaning it. He was in a tough spot. He decided to use his radio to call in and ask what to do. However, no one answered. He tried about 4 to 5 times, but still, no answer. He started to panic a little bit. He couldn't figure out what to do. In the end, he decided he'll cover it with a bucket and put a note on top explaining his predicament. He hoped that maybe in the morning when the scientists come back in, they can clarify what needs to be done. Always forgetful, these smart folks. Could have told me in advance what to do, but no. Just let the cleaner figure it out and then blame him when he messes up, he shrugged to himself. He got one of the empty buckets from one of the cupboards and placed it on top of the disgusting item. However, the bucket was too small to cover it up entirely. Hence, he decided to squish it all together into a smaller pile. As repulsed as he felt having to touch it, he swallowed his disgust and completed his task. After that, he wrote the note and placed it on top. Finally done, he exclaimed to himself. After admiring his work in cleaning the lab, he turned and headed for the exit. In his moment of pride, he didn't realize that a small piece of the specimen he had touched was stuck on his gloves. As he bent down to pick up his cleaning equipment from the floor, the piece of the specimen started to move. Due to his hazard suit, he couldn't feel it on him at all. By the time he reached the exit, the specimen had moved from his left hand to his left calf. It was making its way down. He put the cleaning equipment back down to open the exit door. In an instant, the specimen jumped from his body to his equipment and hid itself from view. As he exited the lab, the small specimen escaped with him.